So, Phil Pagano.
I think we need to distinguish some things here. We all had a hard time going down to Springfield, and I've been in this region since 1979, worked in transit, what I call the old RTA, so I remember the CTA days pretty well. And there's no question there has been historically issues with the CTA, but in fairness, with Metra, with PACE, I think there has been substantial reform to the CTA pension plan as part of what was done in Springfield. You can't take back what employees paid into and employers paid into.
We do in the private sector.
Let me just.
We take it back in the private sector.
Well, let me just advise you.
You guys are not in the real world.
Let me just advise you, though, that when my pension plan, I have to work to 65 and be over 30 years in. So I don't want to be labeled into the CTA pension plan. The bottom line is that the Auditor General did a substantial study on public transit, on the 3 service boards and the RTA, on the issue of funding. As I said, John has been, a lot of you have been around, but John reported I remember the articles in the early 80s about waste and hundreds of millions of dollars and so on. The Auditor General didn't find that out this time around. I mean, that you could look in any organization, you could look in my organization. Can we do certain things better? Absolutely. I'm not going to BS anybody, but there's not hundreds of millions of dollars of waste. He didn't find it in this report. And in fact, in the report, he emphatically said that unless there is new money, this system will crumble, this system will go out of business.
Indeed, for all the grief and aggravation that everyone involved in trying to get a package passed had to put up with, there certainly was a lot of sunlight put on this process, and that probably helped to address a lot of these issues. But Kevin, let me just ask you this. Notwithstanding some of the bumps along the road in passing a package like this, how important is it for the environment, and I'm getting a little bit into our next meeting when we're going to talk about the environment, but how important is it to the environment that we address some of these transit issues, such as what Phil's discussing? Mayor Claire is here from Bolingbrook in fast-growing Will County. Many people here live in DuPage County. There's an increasing population here that needs to, as Phil said, move from suburb to suburb. I think it's been estimated about 1 million people move from suburb to suburb on a daily basis. So, from an environmental perspective, how important is it to address these issues from a mass transit perspective?
A successful mass transit system is absolutely critical to this entire region's economy and environment. I mean, about 1/3 of the global warming pollution nationwide comes from transportation. So, from the business perspective, you shut down CTA, you shut down PACE, you shut down Metra. Nobody gets anywhere. We have absolute total economic gridlock, as well as sort of all the repercussions of that. Understand, nobody in the environmental movement is saying stay home, don't drive, don't go to work. What we're saying is we need an efficient way to move people to keep this economy humming in a way that creates the least damage to the environment. And the answer there is exactly what we've been talking about. It's a vibrant mass transit system. So solving this operating problem is absolutely critical to maintaining the region's economy and has important environmental benefits as well. And we look toward a capital bill to multiply that effect, if you will, to create an even better transit system so that all of you have a choice whether to drive to this meeting or to take a PACE bus or some other alternative.
Now, you are working on the high-speed rail project, and that sounds awfully futuristic to a lot of us, but in Europe and Asia, that's
yeah. If I could rewrite history, we would have talked about a high-performance rail system instead of high-speed, because we get that question all the time. We've talked about the benefits of passenger rail within the region. Another piece we work on at the Environmental Law and Policy Center is essentially mass transit across the region, getting people from Chicago to St. Louis, to Springfield, to Detroit. The same kind of benefits that we talk about with mass transit occur on an intercity basis as well. Intercity trains are 3 times as energy efficient as cars, 6 times as efficient as planes. So by creating better passenger rail opportunities, we can encourage people to leave the car at home. People save time, they save money, they save the environment. About a year, well, let's see, October 31st a year ago, so about 16 months ago, the state of Illinois doubled passenger rail service in the state. So we went from 3 trains a day to Springfield and St. Louis to 5 trains a day, 2 trains to Carbondale, 2 trains to Quincy from 1 before. In 14 months of that new service, we've seen 140% passenger growth Chicago to St. Louis. Over 100% Chicago to Carbondale, about 80% passenger growth Chicago to Quincy. If you build it, they will come. There is a huge latent demand for intercity passenger rail in this region. So we've doubled service, and on 2 of those corridors, we're actually seeing the trains fuller than they were when we ran half as many. So clearly, there's an untapped demand out there, and we're hoping that we can continue this success and create more opportunities to move people around the region in ways that save time, are more productive, and save money.
Kevin's absolutely right. I mean, the Amtrak runs in Illinois are sold out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And that's as crummy as the service is on Amtrak. A national railroad with really one hand tied behind its back because of its perennial funding issues and having to limp from year to year with its budget. So just think what it would be if Amtrak were able to provide more reliable service, if they were able to get more cooperation from the freight railroads, which they run on their tracks. If any of you don't have to go to the high-speed rail in Europe. If you've been to the California system or Washington State or the
Northeast Corridor.
Northeast Corridor, it's a pleasure. You're not sacrificing to get out of your car. I mean, it's just a pleasure to ride.
And if you're concerned about public transit, we could provide better public transit if Chicago and the RTA would do what they're doing at other cities around the world. Indianapolis, for example, they've contracted out most of the bus services there, and that reduces the cost of the system, and providing more bus service in cities like London, where the entire system is privatized now. The bus system in London is, and it provides more service at lower cost. Also, the companies that are doing this are paying taxes, providing revenue source, and you're seeing here, though, the other folks are getting you ready for what's coming. We just had a $500 million tax increase, biggest tax increase since George Ryan's administration. But what they're planning now is $2 billion a year more for the next 30 years. That's $60 billion. I would argue it's unnecessary to spend that much money. They should first focus in on fixing what they have already. Already now, I think 26% of the tracks are in slow zone tracks on the CTA.
I don't think you'd find any disagreement up here. We would always say fix it first.
Well, get it fixed first.